How did your experience in the Emerge California training prepare you for your run?
I think it was essential. And I always tell Melanie and her team, you asked me to come, I will come. So I'm a 2015 Emerge graduate. And when I took the program, I was actually already running for city attorney. And just so everybody knows what that is, because it's kind of a one-off. I was the only attorney running for an attorney position in 2015 in the Emerge class. In the city of San Diego, we're a very large city, and we elect our city attorney who has a bifurcated role. I'm the prosecutor for the city, so I prosecute misdemeanors, and I'm also the general counsel for the mayor, for the city council, and all of the city's departments. And we've never had a woman in this position before. The city's been around for 160 plus years, and it took us that long. And I have to say, coming in as the first woman, as a woman of color, and I also had small children when I was running. And it was a tremendously large race. There's about 1.4 million people who can vote in the city of San Diego. Doesn't mean, unfortunately, that they all will vote. But for somebody who had never run for office before, that's intimidating because you visualize yourself when you have not trained to run, knocking on all of those doors. And how am I going to do my day job and get home in time to do homework and cook dinner and, all the other things we have with our outside job. So I took as many trainings as I possibly could. I did Emily's List. The Democratic Party had a 4-part training. We have a group called Run Women Run here in San Diego. And although I was getting little pieces here and there, I did not get the comprehensive approach that Emerge offers. So I signed up for it. And we had not yet expanded to have the many cohorts that it has now. So I spent a lot of time coming up and flying to San Francisco or to Sacramento, wherever we were meeting to get the training. I would have been lost without that. And if I still remember the first day that we were kicking off our Emerge training, everybody goes around the room to introduce themselves. And there were these phenomenal women who probably didn't realize how phenomenal they were. But when they would stand up and say, I'm so-and-so, I'm an engineer, I'm running for city council, it was so empowering, but I have to admit a little bit intimidating. And I remember standing up that day and saying, I'm Mara Elliot, telling them a little bit about myself, and I'm running for city attorney. And it was the first time I had ever actually said it out loud because I was getting ready to run. I was already in the cycle, but terrified of saying it because of that commitment. And just you feel like all of a sudden the cameras are on you. And by the end of the Emerge session, not only did I have a full game plan, this is what I can expect, this is what I need to be doing. I need to be forming a list of everybody I'm going to call and ask for money. And even during the training, I remember hearing, if you get $10, that's $10 that was really important to somebody and they gave it to you so you can do something about, you can change the world. And it just makes you dream and builds confidence. And then the women that I graduated with are still friends. We still get together and we have our we'll get-togethers and talk about what we all did. And it was just the most amazing experience. I have to say some of the first donations I got were from my fellow Emerge grads because we all believed in each other. And when you see that first number come in, it's just really empowering and exciting. So I have to say I could not have done what I'm doing today and what hopefully I'll do in the future without the support of Emerge because of the program it offered, but also the friendships and the sisterhood that I got from it. So very grateful, Melanie. Keep up the good work. Melanie and team, it takes a team, takes a village. And I'm just very grateful.
Thank you so much, City Attorney Elliot. I think that now, 20 years in, the sisterhood precedes the Emerge California name. And, it's something that is really felt and built by every woman leader that becomes part of Emerge California. I think there's just something really innate about folks who, not only women leaders who come together, but who come together around a shared purpose and vision for the world. It is really powerful and organic. And I'm also grateful to be part of it. So thank you, City Attorney. I mentioned, of course, the SCOTUS ruling on Friday. And so we're in a place, and, it has felt nonstop for years now, but we're in a place where there's just significant debate on policy issues. And it seems like it always happens at the national level, right? What Congress is doing around reproductive justice, gun violence prevention, marriage equality, trans rights, voting rights. And to say we're at an inflection point in our country about which way we're going to go is an understatement.
Yeah.
The thing that we do at Emerge California, though, is that we recruit and train leaders for every level of office. And so, City Attorney, can you share with us the importance of local office and holding local office, running for these seats, and the change that one can affect even on these issues that take place at the national level? Why is it still important that we focus on local office, maybe not only from a policy perspective, but from a political perspective, and who holds those seats?
I think that that's been one of the most eye-opening experiences about my position, because I created a position that reflected the values and the things that I wanted to achieve as city attorney. So when I was running, as I mentioned, I have had two small kids. They're now teenagers with definitely their own agendas. But when I was running initially, Sandy Hook had happened only a couple years before. And as everybody probably remembers, that was a situation where 20 first graders were murdered at school and a couple of teachers. And I remember hearing that break over the news as I was dropping the kids off. And at that time, they were in kindergarten and second grade. And as a parent, you're pulling up to the school and thinking, oh my God, this just happened. And I thought things were secure, that if you take your kids to school, they're going to be safe. And of course, that did not happen. So as a typical parent, I was thinking, what can I do? Well, I got involved in the school safety team and looked at all the exits and what are they doing to prevent violence. But as city attorney, I really put my mind to it and thought, what else can we do? And started studying the issue. And it turned out, following the UC Santa Barbara massacre, again, all the signs were there that there was an individual who was fixated on being rejected by women. You typically see the same mold of people who will come out and commit these atrocities. And I thought, okay, I went to Santa Barbara. My kids, I care, of course, about them, just like anybody else. We're going to create a program. So we studied state law. We have red flag laws in place in the state of California. So I created the first program that really just was very successful. And I think as a leader, you have to be willing to take risks. There was no model for us. So we created it from scratch, got a gun violence restraining order in December of 2017, within a year of my taking office. Taught the courts how to do it. They'd never seen it, and worked with law enforcement and taught them how to do it. Before long, we mastered it, and we had a regional symposium and trained all of the law enforcement agencies in the county of San Diego, because I thought, well, keeping the city safe is not enough. We've got to do a little more. So let's not give anybody an excuse to say they didn't know how to prevent gun violence. So that was successful. And I thought, we've got a model here. We'll be willing to travel the state of California and teach anybody who's willing to hear us. So I have a relationship with Assemblymember Ting up in San Francisco, who is a rock star when it comes to gun violence prevention, and just put a plug in, flew up to Sacramento and said, hey, you give us $50,000, we will travel. We'll get our Southwest air ticket and stay in cheap hotels, and we will train whoever you want us to. I got the money. And then that grew into $250,000. And just last year, that grew into $1 million over 3 years. So we're helping the Attorney General and we're helping the governor create programs throughout the state of California and incentives so that other local jurisdictions can build similar programs. So that was really a grassroots effort that has grown. Dianne Feinstein has called us to say, tell us about how this is working. And she's been a leader at the federal level. But what we needed to show was an example that others could latch onto, invest in, and then grow. So to think that at a local level, you can't achieve something is absolutely wrong. And I think women in particular are creative problem solvers, especially when they've got something at stake like their children. And we're not going to let anything get in our way. And that's what I think I will always be most proud of, is creating something that's got staying power. It's been studied by UC Davis, and we've been able to show that these really work, these gun violence prevention programs. We can stop a crime from being committed before it ever happens. So we have now achieved over 900 gun violence restraining orders. Nothing to celebrate, because that's pretty scary, actually. That's a lot of problems. That's in the city of San Diego. And then we've removed over 1,500 guns from people who are a danger to themselves or to others. So that can happen at the local level. Melanie raises some great other concerns that we're focusing on right now. What can we do about the infringement on our personal freedoms to be women and make our own healthcare choices. Well, I learned from Planned Parenthood and others that there are fraudulent pregnancy centers that will make it sound like they're going to be helpful, and they're not here in California. So what can we do about that? That can be an unfair business practice. So let's let them know that we're watching them, and they better not be lying to people who come to them for assistance. So I think at the local level, you dream. And I'll just add one more thing, Melanie, because we were talking about this before we started. I went to tour a new facility that Planned Parenthood has here in San Diego, and they were asked the question, what are you focusing on? Because as you all run, which we're looking forward to, you will probably be seeking Planned Parenthood's endorsement. So they have a lot of power that way to help you. They said, we're going to be putting our money towards local school boards. And I thought that was the most interesting statement, because their argument is there's a lot going on at the local school district level, but also people on local school boards run for the next level, and they will become council members, and they will become state legislators, and then they will run for federal office. So they just grow. They want to invest in you early on. So look at your water boards, look at your school boards. You don't have to start with a giant mayor race. There's many options available for women who are ready to lead.
City Attorney, thank you for sharing that. I think that all you share just reflects the importance of this movement and the importance for you all, looking at you all, to really consider training with us and running for office. To me, it means a lot of things. I think, one, we think of, if you run, you have to win. First of all, that's not true. There is impact and change that happens in running for office alone, because we're changing what our politics looks like and how politics can be played as we run for office, with our values and with our stories and with the values that we espouse while we're running. Mm-hmm. And someone will be seeing you and watching you and will run because of you, because she feels connected to who you are and the identity that you have as you're running and what you're sharing from your story. I think also at Emerge California, we talk a lot about how many of our sisters are in office and how many they hold. And of course, the city attorney was a trailblazer and the first woman, 160 years. Oh my gosh, I hated and loved hearing that at the same time, but 160 years, the first woman serving as a San Diego city attorney, which is huge, and the first Latino serving in the position. And it's not just the first we celebrate for the sake of being the first. The first means that it's the first time that these voices with these stories are in the halls of power, making different and better policy decisions. And so as we're in these moments and moving through these really heartbreaking news cycles, seemingly on a daily basis, I think that the importance of channeling that fear, that rage, that anger, similar to what the city attorney shared about learning about Sandy Hook driving your kids to school, channeling it into this space where we can hold power, we can make change, and that we can make change at every level of office that we're looking at, not only from a policy perspective, but from a political perspective, because I will tell you that the other side is also looking at school board. The other side is also grooming candidates to move through the ranks. And so we need to be just as vigilant to make sure that we're in those positions of power. The next 20 years, I say, as our movement goes, is going to be important now more than ever, not only to recruit first-time candidates, make sure we're in positions from special district school board on up, but because now 20 years later, we're seeing our sisters run for higher office. Our sisters who have been serving at the city council and school board level are running for mayor. They're running for seats in the state legislature. So just city attorney wanted to thank you for all that. And on my 2 lightning round questions, if we're good for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
I know you're spending more time with us than I had asked, so I appreciate that. We are 20 years old this year. I think you shared a little bit, but if you could think, what's one thing, maybe one of the most important things you've gained from Emerge California?
I think it's, if I were to say it as a value statement, it would be that there is no mold for leadership, that we need to create who we are. I still hear it now. I'm in my 6th year of being city attorney, and this just happened to me last week, where somebody said to me, well, the prior city attorney didn't do it like that, therefore it's not right, Well, we've never had a woman. It's a very